The Politics of Bones is the story of Dr. Owens Wiwa's struggle for the rights of the Nigerian people. It's a battle against the big oil companies. It's interesting because Nigeria's oil issue has been in the headlines a lot recently, and I think this book really helps us all to understand what the real issues are and what the history is. In today's episode, you'll hear from both the author, Timothy Hunt, as well as Dr. Owens Wiwa. Please stay with us. It's all ahead. The book was inspired by an article that you wrote for Saturday Night Magazine.
Yes. In the year 2000, I went to Nigeria. I was invited by Owens to come to Nigeria for a very small family event. They were going to have a funeral for his brother. And quite frankly, like many people, I had totally missed the whole Ken Saro-Wiwa thing because in 1995, when Ken was on trial for murder and executed, the whole Rwandan genocide was going on at the same time, and that seemed to have caught most people's attention and not the events in Nigeria. So I was like most people, I was out of the loop. So I met Owens socially and was invited to go to this very small family gathering where they were going to bury Ken Saro-Wiwa. And so we went there, and it turns out there was no body that was actually given to the family. That for many reasons the government chose to keep the body, so they had a ceremonial funeral with an empty coffin, and 100,000 people showed up for this small family event. It totally stunned the family, stunned us. It was huge, the outpouring of emotion and love for this man.
Dr. Owens Wiwa walked behind his brother's coffin, worrying like an old woman. On this sweltering Monday morning in April 2000, it seemed as if all of the Ogoniland had come to witness the funeral of Ken Saro-Wiwa. Tens of thousands of people, an excitable militant throng, jockeying for a glimpse of the casket. Ken had wanted a small, private funeral. This was definitely not what he'd had in mind. Well, Dr. Owens Wiwa, I'm delighted to have the chance to talk with you. I feel like I know you. I have to say that must be a strange feeling when your life has been captured in a book and, you know, people are able to really go inside some very intimate times in your life right from childhood.
Yeah, I feel I'm at a disadvantage.
You're at a disadvantage.
Actually.
Well, one of the things that I have to say is that Politics of the Bones is a really compelling story on so many levels, both on the human side, your own story, your relationship with your brother, Ken Saro-Wiwa, and then the whole politics of oil. And I think that is something that we don't often talk a lot about, in particular in relation to Africa. And I think that's one of the things that interested me in this book. So I'm going to start by having you tell us briefly, your older brother of 16 years, who you share a birthday with, had a very big impact on your life right from an early age when he was a sort of mysterious figure.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, he was not only my elder brother, he was the Saro of our family, which in our culture, you know, means you have to give him respect, means that he is the future of the clan, of the family. Yeah. So, and in that way, you know, I gave him the due respect that I'm expected to give him according to my culture. But much more than that, he was not just a brother. He was also my teacher, my mentor, and then later in life, my friend, you know, and the leader of a movement that I belong to. He was very versatile in many things, especially trying to make people laugh, you know, where he's getting his way. And so we had a very smooth relationship, you know.
He seemed to be somebody that was also very admiring of you and also paternal, looking to guide you at certain moments. And sometimes that meant some tough love, like changing the locks on his house. when he was away. Tell us about what happened when you came home one day, which was Ken's home, and found you couldn't get in, and all your things were inside.
Well,
what was he teaching you? Tell us about that moment.
I'm very comfortable. I get comfortable very easily.
Yeah.
So when I was in his house, I got too comfortable to move.
Yeah.
And he said, you got to move. You got to start your own life. You know, you got to buy your own things.
You were 29. He was like, it's time.
Yeah. Yeah, but then he was never around. You know, there was nobody in the house. His family was in England. He was always in Lagos or in London. So
it worked.
And I wasn't ready to really move.
Yeah.
You know, so he made me to move, and I think that was a defining moment in my life, and that is when I actually started, you know, building my own future, and I'm making goals for myself, and achieving the goals.
And I love the fact that he had given you 3 weeks. He said, you've got 3 weeks, and then you're out of my house. You need to go get your own house. And I love how you processed it, that, yeah, well, you know, then he's going to be away for about 3 months, so I don't really see the need to rush over this 3-week thing, not thinking he had arranged that the 3-week deadline meant the 3-week deadline. And then this, I thought, was just terrific, because what he had foreseen was the possibility that you would not kind of hustle to get your own house, and that it would be even harder because he would not allow you to access your clothes or your checkbook or your things, which would force you to then deal with, oh my gosh, I have to depend on me and I have to go find a solution. Interesting how you describe in the book that when he came home, you were still kind of mad that he had done this, and he invites you over for dinner, and he's really proud of you and everything that you've done, and you're sort of thinking like, don't you know, I'm kind of mad at you. But it was a great love that I think was always there between the two of you, a very deep love.
That's correct. Although in books, you know, you tend to shorten, you know, time. Actually, between the time that I left his house and when he invited me for dinner was 2 years.
Oh, really?
I didn't speak to him for 2 years.
2 years.
Until, you know, later, you know, what am I doing?
Right.
When I was comfortable and I forgot everything, I said, oh my God, I could not speak to him for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then we just started on, you know, where we left.
Well, tell me what it was like for you to begin to process what Ken had really dedicated his life to. He was very much, even from the start, an activist. And I say that by meaning, in all facets of his life, he engaged fully. He looked at the scenarios that were happening. He mentally engaged. He emotionally engaged. He gave his energy to that which was the preoccupation of whatever sort of little chapter of his life he was in. What do you think that you learned watching him over the years, and what sort of filtered into your own life? Because you had a natural pacing to life that was different than his, but what do you think you absorbed over the years in having that sort of intensity around you?
I think it's mostly persistence, you know, if you're having a goal. If you have a goal and you're persistent in achieving that goal, you will. No matter the obstacles, you know, you just go around it or attempts to jump over the obstacles, you will get there. Persistence and the truth, staying straight to the truth,
right?
No matter what. I think that is what I learned most, you know.
Well, when we return, I'm going to ask you about Ken's activism and his really speaking up for the people of Nigeria who he saw were being robbed environmentally and who were not benefiting from this money that was coming in through the oil, that it was not being dispersed evenly, and some of the politics that really then engulfed his life and has passed into your own life. So I'm going to ask you about that when we return.
Thank you.
Please stay with us. There's more on Fine Print straight ahead.